everyone. It's another beautiful sunny day in northwestern Maine, and here we're going to show you our sap ladder. Now, most people, when you think sap ladder, you're thinking a whole bunch of 5/16 tubing running up into another main line. In this case, we're a little bit different. This is our big sap ladder. We're lifting about 20 to 22 feet up in the air, and that's running up into our wet dry line conductor that runs, I don't know, about 1,800 feet back to the pump house. And what we found with this is we used to have a sap lifter, which was a series of tanks that once everything came into an upper tank, and then they would drop into two lower tanks that once they filled up with sap, they had little levers and plungers and everything, and they would pop. It would stop sap flow from the upper tank into it, and it would let air in, and it would suck out of the tank straight up into the thing. Works great this time of the year when we're not freezing at night, and as long as everything's clean. But what we found was they had some cons to them. One, they do not like ice. So because you're introducing air, any time you get freeze up at night, forget it. That whole thing's going to become a block of ice. It takes you a while to get it thawed out in the morning, and it is usually got one of the air valves wide open on it, and so it's just howling air. It's dropping your vacuum on your whole system. They also don't like wood chips, or like when you drill a new hole in your pipe for a saddle. They don't like that either, and they will. Once again, it gums it up, plugs it up. So it doesn't work properly. Either it's just not letting sap in, or it's not sucking sap up, or it's leaving that air valve wide open. So what you want to do with those things, you want to keep them warm. If you've noticed this tree, it's black. We had a little building shed thing set up here to house it, so it's keep it warm. And our heater got out of control apparently in the middle of the night a couple years ago, burnt the whole thing right down to the ground, and kind of scarred the tree a little bit. But what we ended up doing was we ended up doing this. We said, well, let's try this. Let's see what happens, because we had to do something. It was the middle of our season, so we had to come up with something. So I said, well, let's see if it'll suck up back up in the air. So we put one line in. It started sucking. I said, okay, well, if that works. Next freezing morning, we came back out here again, and we hooked several of these things up. And this is lifting sap all the way up. It worked great last year, and then this year we were having trouble with it. We're scratching our heads trying to figure out what's going on. And what we were finding was our system was so tight. We'd fixed so many leaks over here that it wasn't getting enough air to suck anything up. As you can see, these things are dancing here, and there's just sap just running right up these things. Like every single one of these 3/4 inch lines are running sap. Even our 1.5 inch line's trying to run sap, and that's bringing vacuum in. And so what we ended up having to do is I ended up having to just sacrifice one tap out of a tree, pull it out of the tree, and let it just howl. And so it's introducing enough air that the one tap that we're still getting sap up this. We do have another one further over in the woods. That one is tight, and it only has 165 taps on it. And with that one, we're finding that it runs, it works good. It's only lifting about 15 feet, so it's not going anywhere near as high as this. This is probably, like I said, 20, 22 feet going up. And it's working. It is pulling sap up. It is working good. And it's running about 5 inches lower than the pump house is. That pump house that system's on is running about 25 inches of vacuum right now. And so it's running like 20 inches. This one's doing about the same thing. We're running like 26, 27 inches of vacuum at the main pump house. Most of the woods is around 25. This is at 20 to 20 and a half, depending on which gauge you look at. So you do lose about 5 inches of vacuum, and it doesn't seem to matter whether it's only lifting a couple of feet or if it's lifting a lot. I would like to try one that's only lifting, say, 3, 4, maybe 5 feet max, and see, maybe in the series, and see if that does any better, and not have to actually use, an air hole letting air into the system. We'd like to get rid of that entirely, and it's a lot of air. And you know, it's making our pumps work that much harder, and you know, it is hurting the flow of sap around the other trees right around it. But there's only so much you can do. I mean, we got like 630 taps over here coming to this one spot, all going up this. So we had to do something to make it work, so we had good vacuum. And it does freeze up at night, so just like the sap ladder or sap lifter, the sap ladder will freeze up at night. So we tried to use black pipe down here in the bottom where the sap will collect, so when the sun comes out in a day like today, it thaws right out and it's working. So that's kind of some of the things that we've found with this so far. So you can get it too tight from what I found if you're trying to lift way up. I mean, you can only lift about 30 feet. You can only lift 30 feet. That's your maximum lifting on vacuum anyways. If I'm up around 22, I'm approaching that max. So we're toying around with the idea of, well, what if we could run this that lifts up maybe 10 feet, pitches back towards the conductor further along the hill, and then lifts another 10 feet up. Maybe it would work a little bit better and not have so much vacuum loss and not have to have an air hole to let sap in. That might be a project for next year, and maybe we'll try it then. Right now, it's working. We're probably only another week or two left in our season, and we'll be done anyways. So it's kind of what we got. It's really not too much to it. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's all fittings you're going to have kicking around your pump, your sugar house anyways, and you can get most all these at your hardware store. So I'm thinking maybe I've got, with all my fittings and everything, maybe I've got $200 in this. I don't think it's even that much. Whereas the sap ladder, or sap lifter, was about $600 that I had into it, and that was for a used one basically. So it wasn't even brand new. I already had $600 in it, and it didn't work that well. It's actually works about as good as this does. So this is what I recommend doing. If you got a low area that you just can't get to, like in our case, this hill actually slopes away from where our pump house is. The pump house, we put it where we did because it was the easiest place to get to, and it had power within 800 feet to it. So it wasn't that bad to get power to it. It was a good place, good location, and it's only 500 feet from our sugar house. So this hill actually slopes away from it. So this was our solution to actually get these taps. It was either that or not, tap 600 trees, which is, all us maple lovers, we like to tap as many trees as we can possibly get. So, and it just kills us, when we're driving by maple trees and we're like, why can't we get it? So this was our solution to that dilemma. And it, like I said, it does work pretty good. Could it work better? Maybe so. That's kind of an experiment in progress. And maybe someday we'll get like Proctor or some of them, or Cornell, to do some really big studies on it and come up with something, a better solution to it, or at least more answers, so we can do it as efficiently as possible.